Welcome, everybody, to the show this evening. Mark Carney met with Donald Trump in the Oval Office. Now, we'll get to that, but let's sort of start at the end and work backwards because Mark Carney is the new prime minister in Canada. You could attribute his victory to Trump being a maniac and convincing Canadians that, hey, maybe we shouldn't elect someone who's at all ideologically aligned with Trump, like Carney's opponent. Carney went from being way behind to winning because of Trump. And it was funny because after his Oval Office meeting, he walks out and holds a press conference just to double down on pooing all over Trump. All right. So pardon the phrase, but I was trying to censor myself for the real phrase. Let's watch that, and then we'll get to some of these Oval Office clips and a lot of other updates, including the fact that Australia saw a very similar phenomenon where the anti-Trump figure went from dire straits politically to winning his re-election. Here's Mark Carney after his meeting with Trump in the Oval Office. By the way, if you appreciate the show, please do click the subscribe button. That's the free, easy way to go a step further. You can click the join button and become a member and support this show even more.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. I was watching your face through the meeting in the Oval Office, and I wondered what was going through your mind when the President talked about erasing the artificial border and how he criticized your predecessor and Madam Freeland.
Thank you for your question. I'm glad that you couldn't tell what was going through my mind as that was going through.
So the reporter goes, I could understand what was going through your mind. We'll look at those moments where Carney's like, what the hell is this guy saying? What's happening?
Look, with respect to the first point, the President has made known his wish about that issue for some time. I've been careful always to distinguish between wish and reality. I was clear there in the Oval Office, as I've been clear throughout on behalf of Canadians, that this is never going to happen. Canada is not for sale and never will be for sale. Some things, as I said in the room, some things are never for sale, and he agreed with that. I distinguish between the two, and then with respect to the importance of reestablishing a constructive relationship for negotiations of a partnership, of an economic and security partnership, which is what we were here for. I look forward, not back, and I think we established a good basis today.
Yeah, so I think the most notable part there is he goes, I'm glad you weren't able to hear what was running through my head, allowing us to suppose that some negative thoughts about Donnie were running through Trump's head. I will say, okay, we're going to keep going through this. And like I said, there's a lot. But let's just take a quick little intermission to look at the photos of Trump greeting Carney. Now, yeah, I know. Let me see if I can, I know that someone oversaturated this. I know that probably if you were sitting next to Trump, it wouldn't look like that necessarily. But my goodness, for our podcast listeners, imagine you took a really, really rotten mango and then you put it on a George Foreman grill. And then you sauteed it with orange Fanta. And then you burnt it to a crisp. That's his face. Again, I'm being transparent. I'm sure someone, before posting this photo, added a little extra juice, but still, you can't create this out of nothing. There was, oh my goodness. And then he's just thinking, nah, I won't go for the ear. Why not do the ear? Okay. And we're back to the serious stuff. Here's the moment that Carney says he's happy that we couldn't hear his thoughts.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership. And
look at how slouched. a little boy. You shot this little ice cream cone out of his head. Yeah, bushy, bushy. That's how Trump looked. He's like, he's been talking all this tough talk. We want Canada, invisible line. He found out what a border was, which is an arbitrary line. Yep, good job, Bubba. But now, when he's actually in the room with Carney. Now that confidence, and this actually isn't the one I was referring to, it's the next one. This is when Carney actually articulated his stance. But Trump is so slouched.
And what we can build together. And we have done that in the past. And part of that, as the president just said, is with respect to our own security. And my government is committed for a step change in our investment in Canadian security and our partnership. And I'll say this as well, that the president has revitalized international security, revitalized NATO, and us playing our full weight in NATO, and that will be part of it.
And they have.
Okay, so now let's get to the part where Trump was ranting about his normal things, and let's see if Carney's face is interesting.
Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to get your response to this too. Mr. President, you have said that Canada should become the 51st state.
No. Well, I still believe that, but you know, takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, you know, as a real estate developer, you know, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said, that's the way it was meant to be. But, you know.
What are you, who, it's so beautiful. It's like a nice woman. You look at it, I'm very artistic in that way. When I look at a woman, I see the curves and I say, wow. I walked in, I said, wow, look at the curves. And it's like a sexy woman. North America could be so sexy. Everyone would want to go to the prom with America. It's just an artificial line, otherwise known as a border. That's an artificial line. Yes, good job. It's a border. It's a border. It's a border. It's just, wait, are you saying that God didn't make the line that is on that map? Correct. We decided, wah. But guess what? Most of human conflicts have been engaged in debating over those lines. Many of them.
This is very friendly. We're not. This is not going to be like we had another little blow up with somebody else. That was a much different. This is a very friendly conversation. But we want to make our own cars. We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada. And at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars. And we don't want steel from Canada because we're making our own steel, and we're having massive steel plants being built right now as we.
I gotta be honest. We could have gotten a little more out of Carney, in terms of the facial expressions. Like he was doing this thing. I can only imitate it, so I'm sorry for our podcast listeners, but it was sort of like moving his mouth silently, like as Trump was talking, he would sort of move his mouth a little bit, I guess, to give us a sign like, blink, blink, blink. I'm against this Morse code. I think. You remember when, who was it? I think it was the UK Prime Minister who went, well, let me stop you there, Trump, actually, and cut him off. That's what I wish we would have seen more.
We really don't want Canadian steel, and we don't want Canadian aluminum and various other things because we want to be able to do it ourselves. And we, because of, you know, past thinking of people, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. In other words, they have a surplus with us. And there's no reason for us to be subsidizing Canada. Canada's a place that will have to be able to.
Looks like Carney. You know, I don't even want to describe this because your mouth will start watering. You know those, what were those called? Airheads or something? Those really sour things. Even my mouth is starting to feel weird. But, and it looks like he's the most sour little something in his mouth as he's listening to Trump. Now, again, Trump doesn't understand anything, so that is a bummer. But he's like, oh, we don't want the cars from Canada. Do you understand that with a lot of what we're talking about, it's this complex system of this part comes from that place, this part comes from that place, because then the companies over here can produce a bunch of those sorts of things. Companies over here, and then goes across the border multiple times. It gets assembled over here and then gets sent back over here with some things that were made in America, some things made in Canada, some things made in Mexico, and it's a very complex process. So this whole, we can't have a Canadian car, it doesn't even seem, it misses. And Trump, maybe we'll play this clip sometime in this segment, but at one point he made a comment like, if we don't do any trade with Canada, then we're not losing any money. And it's just, what do you think caused us to do trade with Canada? Do you think that it was because we wanted to lose? No, because it economically benefited us. Now, that doesn't mean sometimes they're not trade changes you want to make, but it fundamentally being able to get that part for that car cheaper because they manufacture it more effectively while we're working on these things. And so then we don't have to assemble the full thing, so it's less expensive, so you can bring it back. The company then has more money to invest in it more. That system, you would have just like orange juice shoot out of his ear if he tried to understand it. Now, he mentioned you heard him reference, I had a very aggressive meeting with somebody else. And that's the other thing. I want to go back to this meeting, but first let's just take a second on that. This coward was more willing to attack Zelensky, who's defending the literal existence of his country, than attacking the guy who's both ideologically apart from him, won on a campaign of Trump sucks, essentially. It was Carney's election victory, and Trump is threatening to annex that guy's country, and Trump is able to have a more friendly conversation than he had with the guy who is fighting in the U.S.'s interest against our chief adversary, Russia, as they're trying to illegally take over that country. And his little pouty self had to attack Zelensky, but in this meeting, he's kind of much more friendly. And on the topic of Ukraine, the disjointedness and disorganization of the Trump administration is made so clear by this report. Trump, White House, blindsided after Pete Hegseth abruptly canceled Ukraine weapons shipment. This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. In a stunning look behind the scenes via internal records from the U.S. Transportation Command that were seen by Reuters, the verbal order originated from Hegseth's office and sparked confusion not just in Washington, but in Kyiv and Warsaw, where the shipments were being coordinated. Hegseth's decision reportedly came on the heels of that meeting where Trump had his temper tantrum. While aid was discussed, 3 sources told Reuters that Trump gave no explicit order to halt assistance, raising serious questions about Hegseth's interpretation of the president's intent. So Trump poops himself in the Oval Office, freaks out as Zelensky, and Hegseth, without getting approval, just goes, cut off aid. And then Trump goes, and then goes out and goes, yes, I made a decision to restrict aid because when he didn't actually make that decision. It's wild. Continuing.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Mark Carney with us. As you know, just a few days ago, he won a very big election in Canada. And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take a vote.
Because they hate you. Because they hate you. They hate you. They hate you. What is this taking? Okay, sorry, I didn't even let you hear the whole clip, but he's taking credit for Carney's victory. He's taking credit for Carney. All right, well, I mean, it's true. Trump is to blame for Carney's victory, because he ran on Trump's terrible, let's fight him. And the conservative was perceived as too aligned, even though the conservative was going, no, I hate Trump too, I hate Trump too. That's how unpopular Trump is in Canada, and he thinks Canada wants to go to the United States. No. If ever they wanted to, they don't anymore, I can tell you that for sure.
And I think I was probably the greatest thing that happened to him, but I can't take a vote. His party was losing by a lot, and he ended up winning. So I really want to congratulate him. It was probably one of the greatest comebacks in the history of politics, maybe even greater than mine. You know?
He misses the whole point. All right, let's just jump. I want to tell you about this Australia election, but first, at one point, Trump talked about how he doesn't like how everyone's asking, what is there a deal? Have you made a deal with China? China. Right. And so let me play that clip for you, and then we'll get to a couple things.
It's necessarily on trade. Just to finish, we also have a situation, because everyone says, when are you going to sign deals? We don't have to sign deals. We could sign 25 deals right now, Howard, if we wanted. We don't have to sign deals. They have to sign deals with us. They want a piece of our market. We don't want a piece of their market. We don't care about their market.
We do want a piece of their market. We do. Maybe you'll hear it if I sing it. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, what? Why? You remember capitalism? Do you remember that? Do you remember that, Trump? Do you remember when your party said that you really liked capitalism? Do you remember? Do you remember whenever you said that market forces were in the interest of profits? Because they are. Why would companies buy things from other markets if it wasn't in their interest?
They want a piece of our market. So we can just sit down, and I'll do this at some point over the next 2 weeks, and I'll sit with Howard.
2 weeks. It's 2 weeks every time.
And Scott, and with our great vice president, who has done a really good job. We have some good news to report on a lot of fronts. But JD will be there, and Marco, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to put very fair numbers down, and we're going to say, here's what this country, what we want, and congratulations, we have a deal. And they'll either say, great, and they'll start.
Okay. Guys, everyone, let's just do a little zen, okay? Here's what's happened in the last couple weeks. 2 weeks. Trump said he had 200 deals already made. Then his administration said he didn't. Then a bunch of them said, we're negotiating deals, okay? So we were negotiating pieces of deals with countries. Now Trump is saying that that he isn't negotiating because they were just going to set a deal all along without negotiating it. They'll just decide. Now, after Trump said he's talking to China, and after a bunch of his administration officials said that they're negotiating actively with China, Mr. Scott Bessent came out to say, no negotiations with China.
I've said before, there are 18 very important trading relationships. We are currently negotiating with 17 of those trading partners. China, we have not engaged in negotiations with as of yet.
Oh, okay. No, that's cool. That's fine. Because you had said that you had. Trump had said that you were. So could we get any clarification on why it went from we're negotiating and we made 200 deals, which is what Trump said in the Time interview, to we are not actively in negotiations with China and no deals have been officially made. And it's funny how none of his body moves, like just his mouth is moving. It doesn't make any sense. It's very confusing. All right, now let me talk about this Australia thing. Australia's election wasn't about Trump. An anti-Trump wave swept it away. The global turmoil wreaked by President Trump's policies made him a factor in the election, bolstering the re-election of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. I guess they're saying, I don't even know what that headline even means, but Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese never styled himself as an anti-Trump figure in his pitch for re-election. He said that he trusted President Trump and that he respected the United States democratic process. He rarely invoked Mr. Trump by name, redirecting questions by him to discussions of budget surpluses or a comment that he focused on Australia. He was measured, and so I kind of misstated this about him being the anti-Trump wave is what I'm identifying him, not him being an anti-Trump figure. But the global tumult set off by Mr. Trump's return to power made him a factor in Australia's election. And in the end, Mr. Albanese and his center-left Labour Party appeared to have been bolstered by a wave of anti-Trump sentiment, pulling off a stunning landslide victory on Saturday. So while he didn't want to alienate Trump and wasn't as anti-Trump as Carney ran on, he rode that wave. And Justin Wolfers, by the way, if anyone knows Justin Wolfers, this economist, Justin, if you watch this, get yourself on this show, please. I want to talk. I like you. I think you're cool. Here is Justin explaining this.
Katie, I want to begin by helping you pronounce the Prime Minister's name. We're an informal group in Australia, so we don't call him Mr. Albanese. We call him Albo. The striking thing about Albo's re-election really is there's been a wave of anti-incumbent sentiment across the whole world post-COVID. And what you saw with the re-election of the Liberals in Canada and of Albo and the Labor Party in Australia is not only the end of that, but a really robust election win. I think you described what led to this exactly correctly. I talked to either all sorts of experts in Australia, that might be my family group chat, and they told me that it was the Trump rhetoric. The Australians love their democracy, and talking about the media as hate media, talking about ripping off the idea of Doge, the anti-woke candidate. It just didn't play well. Well, actually, it was playing well till we saw the chaos that Trump unleashed. And so what you're learning here is this chaos, which has already proven to be quite unpopular in the United States, is unpopular elsewhere. And maybe we can learn something about what's going to happen in the midterms from this.
So people in Canada and Australia were going, this sort of right-wing MAGA thing, I kind of like it. This is kind of cool. I don't like these liberals. Ooh, yeah. And then they were all doing that. And then Trump got elected and started doing what this ideology does. And they went, no. We don't want that. Never mind. Which at least they got to prevent it. Thanks for letting us prove that to you. Thank you. We're happy to do it. We're happy to show you what right-wing fanaticism gets you. Okay? Let's look a little bit more at this meeting.
Is there anything the Prime Minister can say to you today to change your mind on tariffing Canada?
Tariffing cars?
Tariffing Canada. Is there anything he could say to you in the course of your meeting?
Can we get some hearing support for Trump? This has been a lot of... What is there anything you can say to you to decrease the tariffs on Canada? Tariffing cars? We don't need their cars. We don't need their steel. We don't need their lumber. We don't need. Yeah, we know. We heard you.
Today that would get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No.
Why not?
Just the way it is.
That's just the way it is. Do. Some things will never change. What a son of a gun. All right, then the guy that he's called every name in the book, Trump says, I like Gavin Newsom. Huh?
They have a thing called the highway that goes back and forth that's not fully utilized. And they got involved with this project. And Gavin, I always liked Gavin. I had a good relationship with him. I just got him a lot of water. I sent in people to open up that water because he refused to do it. And we just got him a lot of water. If they would have had that water, and if they would have done what I said to do, they wouldn't have had the fires in Los Angeles. Those fires would have been put out very quickly. But if you think about it, and you got to take a look at this, it's the worst cost overrun I've ever seen. I've watched a lot of stupid people.
So he likes Gavin, but the water has put a little bit of a wedge between them. Mike says, as someone who lost their home in one of these fires, I can't emphasize enough how wrong and insane Trump is about water. The water he released was nowhere near LA and had no impact on the fires, which would have happened anyway, and we're already near 100% containment. Trump released unrelated water and wasted it and almost flooded a bunch of people if it weren't for people going, we're not going to release more, even though Trump's telling us to, because he just wanted, like with everything, a photo op. It's always about the photo op. All right, last clip from this.
And by not trading, we're losing nothing. So we're saving $1 trillion. It's a lot. but they want to negotiate and they want to have a meeting, and we'll be meeting with them at the right time.
By not trading, we're losing nothing, he says. Alex Cole said Trump's trade policy is if I quit my job, I'll save on gas. It's, yeah. He doesn't. Why do you think the economy's getting worse if that's true? Like, what? It's because of Biden. No, I know. But, like, what do you really believe? It's because... Stop. What do you actually believe, Trump? It's Biden. You don't, though. We know that. What? I'm curious why he actually believes the economy's getting worse. Share your thoughts in the comments. Get the bonus show by clicking that join button below.